Namaste. Have you ever felt like your past, maybe even some past traumas, are holding you back from achieving your full potential? Well, stick around because we are going to be diving deep into how you can leverage your past experiences, even the painful ones, to build a stronger, more resilient future. And if this is your first time joining us, welcome. I am Gloria Grace, the light messenger and holistic business guide. And I did not realize how much the trauma of my past was affecting my present until I started my business back in 2009. I launched my business initially as an SEO copywriter, helping business owners with their online messaging and which I still do now as well as coaching. But uh, anyway, what I discovered in doing in launching my business and showing up and doing the things that an entrepreneur has to do to attract clients and all of that fun stuff is I was having trouble valuing myself and dealing with that, and that was because of the trauma that I experienced growing up. I grew up in alcoholic household. I never knew if my dad was gonna be drunk or sober, and as a kid, especially when I was really little, that's pretty scary. There was always this kind of undercurrent of fear and dread going on, and that was even going on. I still even remember it in middle school. I had a good friend that I could confide in, and because she was going through similar circumstances in her family. And so we were able to kind of commiserate with one another that it wasn't fun to put it bluntly. And but I still survived anyway, got through it, went to college, started a career. But when I started my business, then that's when these issues of limiting beliefs that I had about myself really started coming to the forefront. I For one thing, when you grow up in a scary household, and it could be, child abuse, it could be not necessarily, I mean, physical abuse or mental abuse, not necessarily alcoholism, but when you grow up in a scary household, you tend to want to be able to control things because other things are outside of your control so much, you wanna be able to control what you can. And so in my business, that was reflected in the fact that I wanted to control all aspects of my business. I was reluctant to trust anyone to be able to hire assistants, even though I knew that in order to grow my business, I would have to be able to do that at some point. I couldn't continue doing everything myself. I also struggle with self esteem issues, even though I knew intellectually that the skills I had were worthwhile and that I was able to help people. There was a part of me that didn't trust myself, number 1, and number 2, didn't value myself. I didn't value my self-worth, and because I was also tended to be a people pleaser, because that's another way of being able to survive in a household that has some dysfunction going on, is you or at least for me, I mean, some people decide to rebel. That was my siblings were more of the rebellious type. I was like, "No, that's not for me," because I saw how their rebelliousness was met with, shall we say, anger by my mother in particular. So I decided I'm gonna be a people pleaser. I'm gonna be that perfect daughter. And in business, this was a problem because then I had trouble, number 1, pricing my services because of the self-worth issues, and number 2, I didn't even want to offend my clients by raising my rates. In my book, I tell a story about how I had one client early on who was a web designer, and so, uh they designed websites for real estate companies, for builders, home builders. And so I was writing blog articles for all of these different home builders. And I worked for this company for many, many years. And it took me about, I don't know, 6 or 7 years, I think, before I finally got up the nerve to ask them for a raise. I mean, think about it. If I was an employee for another company, number one, I'd be getting reviews and they'd probably be offering me a raise. But because I was an entrepreneur, I was a solopreneur, I was unsure of myself, even though I know they were happy with my work. I didn't have the confidence in myself to be able to say, "Hey, I've been doing good work for a long time. How about a raise?" But I finally did, and they were like, "Oh, sure." I'm like, why did it take me so long?" But anyway, this sounds bad, right? All of these, negative things that can happen when you grow up in a dysfunctional family. But there's a silver lining here because all of those things can actually be positives, amazingly enough. And in fact, I had a coach once who said that our uh, our weaknesses are really our strengths turned up too high. So for instance, people like myself who grew up as a daughter of an alcoholic, we have, as I mentioned, people pleasing tendencies. We're also perfectionists. So what's the good side of this? Well, we make good caregivers. We're good in a crisis. We do meet goals, and that was something that I have been good about doing in my business. Is that I would tell a client, okay, I'll get this work done by X amount of time, and I would strive to not only meet that, but get it done before then. So they could rely on me. Well, case in point, I just told you about working for this web designer for so many years. If I wasn't giving them blog articles, good quality work on time, they would have kicked me to the curb a long time before this. So so despite my self-esteem issues and self-worth issues, I was a good, well, employee in a sense in this case, although I wasn't on the payroll, so to speak. I was working more as a freelancer. But anyway, I was successful. I was building my business. I was able to grow my business as a copywriter. And I would love to, and I need to make a note of this. I want to put a link to this in the show notes today. I'm reading an excellent book right now. I'm nearly done with it. And it is called Perfect Daughters, Adult Daughters of Alcoholics by Robert J. Ackerman. And in the book, he goes through and shows you all the different characteristics that an adult daughter has, and that these negative characteristics, the positive sides of them. So that's why I say the title of this episode today is Leveraging Your Past for Entrepreneurial Success. So what I would love for you to think about, and I still have some more things to talk about here today, but I really would encourage you to think about, whatever type of a childhood you had growing up, think about, are you letting that past define your future, or can you look at it and see what are some of the benefits, let's say? I know it doesn't seem like it, but it could be. What are some of the things that have enabled you to survive? Because you're listening to this podcast or you're watching it right now on YouTube. You're a survivor. You're here. You did something right to be able to do that. So I encourage you to think about that. Which leads me to my next point, which I want to talk about is, excuse me, one quick second. What I want to talk about is mindset. Because again, I have discover this in the years of being in business and also working with clients, and not only when I was doing copywriting, but also in coaching now, how their mindset affects the level of success that they have in their business. So when you've got, whether it's a positive or a not so positive mindset, that's going to impact how you experience and interact with your clients, with your business, and the rest of the world. And let's face it, when you feel good about yourself, it's super easy to be motivated, to be productive, and to be happy in professional and personal relationships. And I'll share a quick example for me is that yesterday I was not feeling so happy, and for who knows, whatever reason, I wasn't that motivated and I wasn't productive. I was able to get a few things done, but not as much as I was able to do the day before when I was, for whatever reason, just in a really good mood all day. And I just zimmed? Sure, zimmed. I'm going to make up a word. Zimmed. I zimmed through all of the things that I wanted to get done and even more. I think that I didn't even have originally planned on my schedule. So, but what happens is, again, past events, traumas, and things like that can create a lot of limiting beliefs for us. And you might have even heard things like, you got to work hard for the money. Heck, there was even a song about this. I remember, I think it was Huey Lewis, I don't know, back in the 80s or something. But there's this perception that we have to work hard for the money. And then sometimes you also have this feeling that you're not good enough because perhaps you wanted to do something as a kid and you were told no, or you were, certainly in school you get graded on projects, and maybe you had an off day and you received a failing grade on a test, and then you really internalized that and it started to define the rest of your career in school. But again, there's good news here because our wonderful brains, there's something, a term called neuroplasticity. We can rewire our brains to change those limiting beliefs because, after all, a belief is just a thought that you keep thinking. You just keep thinking it over and over again. Those thoughts, those same thoughts, and what is it? We repeat like 80% of the thoughts every day. We have the same thoughts every day a lot of the time. So if you can start to change those thoughts and create new empowering beliefs about yourself, then you're going to become more successful and you're going to be able to change some of those past events that you might have deemed unpleasant or negative, and be able to reframe them into something good. And I've done lots of different episodes on the show, in fact, just this year alone, about mindset. And one of the ones I did put into the show notes for this one was when I had a guest on the program called, his name is Noah St. John, and he's called the father of affirmations, not affirmations, but affirmations. And he talks about asking empowering questions rather than just doing these I am statements, but to ask, what would it be like if I were more confident? What I forget. Go listen to the episode. I'm not gonna go into it right now. But anyway, think about that. What would it be like if you could let go of those limiting beliefs that are perhaps keeping you from the level of success that you like? Now, another ways that our past can hinder our present and our future success comes from being unable to trust your intuition. And your intuition is it's your inner guide, it's your inner compass. And people, especially, yeah, if I can speak today, especially successful entrepreneurs, a lot of them, the reason they got to be successes is because they trusted their gut. They listened to their heart. And in fact, I've talked about this in a previous episode about people like Richard Branson, Oprah Winfrey. They have said that the reason they became successful is because they trust their intuition. So if you find that you may get those little twinges, but you ignore them, or you just, or maybe you're not. Maybe you're not even hearing them. You've become out of tune with your inner self, with your higher self. One of the best ways, two things that I've have found to help me. Number one is meditation. Fantastic, fantastic tool, because when you meditate, whether you are walking, whether you are sitting, whatever type of meditation you do, you are endeavoring to quiet your mind. And when you can quiet your mind for a little while, that opens up the opportunity for your higher self to start communicating with you. The other way that I have found is light language, and I'm going to share some of that with you at the end of the episode today. But just to tell you real quickly, light language is a direct means of communicating with your higher self, with source, with angels, archangels. It is a form of communication that speaks to your soul. And the more that you practice it, or you yourself, or you listen to someone else doing it, it again it's strengthening that connection with your higher self. And that will help you in being able to get your intuition going. So I hope that's one thing that you will consider doing, because it is such a great tool for business. And finally, the last thing I want to, well, not really the last thing, but one of the last points I want to make about how to really leverage your past, but also to be able to not let your past per se dictate your future success, is to think about your self-worth and think about self-love, and how are you incorporating that? Well, how are you incorporating self-love into your life? And then how that will help to boost your self-worth. Because as I mentioned earlier in this episode, that was one of the things that was tripping me up in business, was that I didn't value myself enough. And when I was writing my book, Live, Love, Engage, How to Stop Doubting Yourself and Start Being Yourself, in it, I talk about something called the love method. And the word love is an acronym. And the L stands for let go and let God. The O is open your heart to receive. The V is value your uniqueness. And then the E is embrace your divinity. But valuing your uniqueness, when I was writing the book and I was actually transferring all of my handwritten notes that I was doing in a journal onto the computer, I discovered that section had the least amount of content in my handwriting journal. And it was because I was and this is still just 3 years ago, when I was finally putting the book together, finishing it up, that I was like, even after all of this work to do, I was having trouble. And I will tell you that, putting in another plug for light language, the value of it, because I didn't start channeling light language until the fall of 2020. And I think, and it was shortly after I was really started working on this valuing part, this value your uniqueness part of the book. And once I started doing that light language, it really started to help me to be able to let go. It helped me let go of these limiting beliefs about myself, that I didn't have value, that I wasn't worthy, that I wasn't good enough. So if this is something that you are struggling with right now, I am going to encourage you. Again, number one is to develop a meditation practice. keep a gratitude journal. And especially for those of us who are in business, keep track of your testimonials. Because when you have those days where you aren't feeling as good about yourself, you aren't feeling as confident in yourself as you could be, I encourage you to open up that gratitude journal, open up that file, whether it's a computer file or you actually have a written log of everyone who has ever sent you a positive comment about your particular business, to review that, because we need to be reminded that we are good at what we do, that we are worthy, that we have been doing good work in the world. And we forget. I mean, even I do sometimes still, because I'm human. That's the thing. This journey we're on is, as human beings, we ebb and flow between feeling good about ourselves and maybe not so good. And that's normal. It's okay. As long as we keep climbing, keep climbing that mountain, because on the other side of the mountain is usually a valley. But if we keep climbing, even the valleys get to be higher and higher and higher, so that we are improving. And that's the goal. Is to constantly be improving ourselves as people, as business owners. So do that and practice self-care, because self-care, when you take care of yourself, when you are resting, when you feel the need to rest, when you are eating right and exercising, that is showing yourself how much you love yourself, because you're taking care of this vessel that we were given when we came into this life as a human being, when we came to this planet. So we've got to treat this wonderful body of ours well, so that it will keep us going, so that we will be able to not only take care of ourselves, our families, but also take care of our business, take care of our clients, be there for these people who are depending on you to provide whatever product or service it is that you offer. So I encourage you to think about, how much are you really worth to yourself? Because if you're really willing and able to always be taking care of other people, but you're not taking care of yourself, that's a problem. You've got to take care of yourself first. You have to fill your cup up first before you can take care of anybody else. Okay, we've talked about a lot today. We've talked about limiting beliefs. We've talked about mindset, the importance of having a real strong, positive mindset. We've talked about letting go of limiting beliefs. We talked about actually even some of the values of the ideas of things that maybe on the surface don't seem like they're good traits to have: perfectionism, people pleasing, but they can have some value. I would like to encourage you right now to think about where you are on this entrepreneurial journey, and think about, are you truly letting your past dictate the way you are showing up as a business owner in a negative way? Or are you being able to take your past and transform it into something that is good, something that will benefit yourself, benefit your loved ones, benefit your business? So if it isn't, I am going to encourage you right now to reach out to someone, whether that is, maybe you have your own coach, reach out to them and say, hey, I think we need to work on this issue a little bit more, or a counselor, or I will humbly say, you could reach out to me. I would love to be able to chat with you. So go to 𝗳𝗲𝗺𝗍𝗄𝐺.com, and I will have that link in the show notes as well. But go there, and when you go to that link, it'll take you right to my calendar, where you can schedule a 20-minute power call. And when you get on the call with me, what we'll do is we will uncover what's really standing in the way of your biggest goals. And I'll give you some personal guidance on one action that you could start taking right now to that's going to move you in the direction of your dreams and your goals and what you want to accomplish in life and in business. And you'll also experience a mini session of the love method that I mentioned earlier today, as well as well, maybe even I might even do a little bit of a session of light language with you as well, just to give you a glimpse of what's possible when you work with me. And of course, there's no obligation for you to work with me. I just would love to, because I'm here to serve. I am here really to help as many people as I can know their worth, to know that you are worthy, you are loved, you are an amazing person, you are valuable, and you deserve all of the love and abundance that you could get in this lifetime, this precious lifetime that we have here on earth right now. So I have, for those of you watching, I've got the banner up there on YouTube, but for those of you listening, again, I encourage you to go to engagewithgloria.com and imagine what your life could be like 90 days from now if we were to work together and see. So, and also I do have, in the meantime, I also have another place for you to be able to hang out and to also get some support and guidance from me. And this is for free. You can join our Facebook group. It's called the Soulful Women's Network, and you can find it on Facebook. You can just search through Facebook and look for it, or you can go to bit.ly/soul network, and that's SOUL network. So I would love for you to do that as well. Again, that's strictly free. I've got some resources in there. I have some videos in there as well, so you can check that out. Now, before we close out our episode today, I would like to share with you a brief light language message. And as I mentioned, this is an ability that I have to be able to channel, comes through as spoken word and song, sometimes both, sometimes one or the other, depending on what the spirits say we need to hear right now. And it's a communication that your logical brain would not necessarily be able to translate, but it doesn't matter, because it's something that is speaking directly to your heart, to your soul. And it's a very relaxing modality. If nothing else, it'll help to ease some stress that you might be experiencing at the moment. So if you are listening to this while you are driving a car, I would say come back, listen to this later, somewhere where you can sit down, have your feet on the floor, be able to close your eyes and allow the sounds that come through to wash over you. So I'm going to assume you're doing that right now. And I'm going to encourage you to just settle in for a moment. Close your eyes, take a deep breath, release it, and set the intention that the message you are about to receive will allow you to release whatever is blocking you, and ultimately that the message you receive will be for your soul's highest good. And that's what I'm asking for, is that whatever comes through right now will be for your soul's highest good and the highest good of all concerned. Kukaya nahi ke koya no ekaya okoya ni kokanya yono akoya koya tishyo no kohe pasa kosha no ye わなきやこくや最後のくやてがしやとへしょのこやたきやえかそくやなけへあのこやとしこふえげあいえかよととさねこよのくしやて、そのこはこ、さのくふ、こえくあ、こえこえこそえな、えこすしゃのきや、えかよとあて、他にあししょの、kako ya ku soye kanako shano ku seya to he kaso ku ya. Thank you so much for being here today, for listening to this podcast, for watching it on YouTube. I am so grateful for so many of you who I don't even know, but I am just so grateful, especially people who have left reviews, whether on iTunes or Apple Podcasts, I guess it's called now. I'm old school. I still remember it being called iTunes or on Podchaser. So thank you so much for those. And I really hope that this resonated with you today and that it will help you to be able to turn your traumas into triumph. And yeah, just have a wonderful, wonderful day. Have a wonderful evening whenever you're watching this or listening, and have a great life and a great business. And yeah, just do all of that. Do all of those wonderful things. And of course, if you're not subscribed to the podcast yet or my YouTube channel, I hope you will do that as well. Make sure you subscribe at Gloria Grace Rand for YouTube and subscribe to Live, Love, Engage. Live, Love, Engage on wherever you're listening to this podcast today. And until next time, I encourage you to go out and live fully, love deeply, and engage authentically.